Virtual is convenient, but it just does not offer the same level of access or experience, right? Like, it's one thing if we're meeting on virtual and you ask a question, but at the live event, you can come on stage. We can work through your issue right there on the whiteboard, and you get live hot seat on the spot coaching. And I want you to think about this as well if you're trying to determine whether or not to host a virtual event or whether or not to host an in-person event. All of my clients in the Published and Paid membership and those who are in the Published and Paid mastermind, I tell them that they need to have at least one event every single year. Even if it doesn't have to be large scale, it can be a workshop. But getting in person and allowing people to see your brand in action, it allows your attendees to experience your confidence, your leadership, and your expertise up close. Welcome to the Published and Paid podcast, where we share book, business, leadership, and life lessons in 20 minutes or less to help you build a thought leadership brand and business. My name is Jasmine Womack. I'm a former middle school language arts teacher turned seven-figure entrepreneur, and I am glad that you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Published and Paid podcast, and I am your published and paid coach, Jasmine Womack, and today's episode is all about why virtual is not enough and why in-person workshops and live events need to be on your radar. Now, we've all seen how virtual workshops and live events exploded over the past few years, but here's the truth. Virtual alone is not enough if you want to create real momentum and if real breakthroughs and lasting impact. And so today I'm diving into why in-person events can be the game changer that your business and your book and you needs. So I'm really excited about this. Now, I have been hosting live events for years. Matter of fact, outside of the major live events, I actually started out hosting smaller workshops, profitable workshops, when I launched my first book. And the reason how and why I got into it is because I knew that I wanted to speak, but at the time I was a middle school language arts teacher. And so unlike a lot of my entrepreneurial friends, I just did not have the flexibility and the bandwidth to go different places during the day because at the time I still held a 9-to-5 career. You follow me? So that means that, I couldn't just take off work to go speak. I had a responsibility to my students, to the contract I signed, and to the craft of the profession. So I had to utilize the weekends to speak and to host events. And so because I was working my career at that time, it made it very difficult for me to try to go after speaking engagements. And it made it difficult for me to build my career as a speaker. And so I knew that I needed in-person footage. I knew that I needed to get in front of a room. And one of the easiest ways to do that was instead of waiting on someone else to ask me to be on their stage, I just created my own. And so that's how I got into actually doing events. I started off with smaller workshops with 50 people or less. After I wrote my first book, 20 Pearls of Wisdom, A Woman's Guide to Self-Preservation, right? Now, in the beginning, I hosted those workshops for very low cost, $25 to $47, usually for a full day, where I was teaching, where I was training. We would do breakout sessions. And that was actually my roadmap to being able to produce larger scale events in larger spaces, more luxurious with, hundreds of people there, right? And so I understand the event space. And I've also seen how events have changed since COVID. I've seen the pricing changes over time as well. And so even though I was building up my business online, I always valued that in-person component because it allowed you to connect with the people. It's one thing to see an avatar online, right? It's one thing to watch someone on YouTube or when they're live streaming, but when you're actually able to be there in the room, to see them, to feel the energy, to have the opportunity to speak to them directly and to meet others that are moving in the same direction as you, I don't care what you say. It's different. Now, I'm team virtual all day, but I'm also team I'm getting myself in the room. And so live events have been something that I've strategically invested in myself over the past several years, upwards of $25,000 to attend live events. And that is not including the travel costs or the room and board costs. That's just looking at what it cost me to get in the room. So like, for instance, I went to this 2-day event that was in Orlando. It was $7,500. But with that $7,500, I was able to fly on a private jet, and I was able to stay in a mansion with other mastermind members. All of that was included in addition to the 2 days of training at this luxury mansion, and food was provided as well. So I need for people to not look at, oh, you invested $7,500. It wasn't just for the 2-day event. It was for the entire experience, right? It was for the entire experience. And I'll be honest with you. There are events, even some that I'm curating, that are upwards of $5,000, $7,500, $10,000 to attend, because it's not a performative event. It's a strategy event, and you're coming to learn, and you're coming to implement, and you're coming to execute. And so instead of being on your own, watching self-study courses for hours, you're able to do everything right there in the room. And that level of acceleration is absolutely worth the investment. At least it is to me, because I understand that time is life, and I also understand that time is money. And if I can collapse time to learn something, and if I can expedite my execution, then I can actually gain more time, and I can make more money, because I've been able to collapse the time that it took me to learn the thing. And so that's how I look at things. I don't look at it as, oh, I'm spending this amount of money. I'm looking at it as, what is the experience? What am I learning? How am I going to be able to get an ROI from this immediately? That's how I look at things. And if I were to study this on my own, how long would it take me versus me going into a room for 1 day, for 2 days, and for 3 days? And now I'm able to get everything that would have taken me weeks or months, on my own. I'm able to get it all there in 1 day or a couple of days, right? So I understand the value of in-person events. Now, during the pandemic, there was absolutely a shift to virtual events. And we all know why. The whole entire world was shut down. And so virtual events were a lifeline during the pandemic, because it gave us an opportunity to connect. Many of us were stuck in our homes. People were afraid to go anywhere. Things were shut down for at least a good month. Things were shut. I know things were shut down for at least a few weeks to a month. Even parks, couldn't even take our kids to the park. And so virtual events became a way for people to connect. It became a way for people to talk to folks that they loved. It became a way for people to work. But that there's just a difference. And during the pandemic, a lot of people got Zoom fatigue. They got zoomed out, is what I call it. You got Zoom fatigue of sitting down, being in front of a camera all the time. I mean, come on. And so we're no longer stuck in the house. And while virtual is definitely convenient, and it's accessible, and it's opened many doors for so many people, it has its limits. Virtual has its limits, especially when you're serious about elevating your brand, especially when you're serious about elevating your network. So let's talk about why you absolutely need in-person opportunities, okay? I like to say that face-to-face interaction sparks deeper connections. And this is even important for those of you all who are self-professed introverts. Yes, you need to get outside of your circle. Being able to connect with people who are like-minded. Here's the thing. Most of us, we don't have people in our immediate circles who are doing the same things, or who are doing similar things, or who have done them on the level that you're trying to do them. And so when you go and you put yourself in an environment where others are doing those things, then it allows you to not only be encouraged and inspired and to feed off of the momentum in the room, but you're also able to expand your network as well. You're able to connect with other people who are doing the same thing. You're able to connect with people who relate and make some new friends, personal and business. When you're in the room versus virtual, it allows you to have, I believe, a different level of epiphany and mindset shifts, along with real-time collaboration. Now, a lot of times in my virtual events, I do virtual collaboration as well, like in a breakout room. But it is different. Y'all know it's different because it's different if I'm in a Zoom breakout room and I'm looking at my phone and then I'm looking in another window on my computer at something else versus being in a room where I'm able to lock in, I'm able to focus in, I'm able to actually connect with and feel the energy of the person that's sitting next to me as I'm talking to them. So being in a breakout room with someone virtually versus, being in the room where you're able to connect with them, where you're able to collaborate with them in real time, it's just different. Like if I am in a breakout room session on Zoom, right? And I'm supposed to be connecting with others, collaborating with them. That's one thing. But you also know that you and likely other people are also distracted, whether it's being in different tabs, having open tabs that they're navigating on their laptops, being on their phones, having things in their external environments pull them away versus actually being in a room where you're immersed and focused in on the task at hand and you are actively collaborating with others. Like there's no match. There absolutely is no match. So I have an attendee of one of our former events who shared that when they came to the event, they were able to get twice as much done in half the time than they were when they had been doing it on their own at home. And it was literally because they had an opportunity to leave their environment. They didn't have the same distractions. They didn't have the same things and people pulling on them. And they were able to come into a space where they were able to get re-energized, be poured into, have an opportunity to create their plans. And they were able to focus in on that without having to worry about anybody else's problems, any other responsibilities, or anything else. And this is why it matters, okay? Now, when you are trying to debate whether or not to attend an event, and you're saying, oh, do they have a virtual event? I will say that although, again, and I said it previously, virtual is convenient, but it just does not offer the same level of access or experience, right? Like it's one thing if we're meeting on virtual and you ask a question, but at the live event, you can come on stage. We can work through your issue right there on the whiteboard and you get live hot seat on the spot coaching. And I want you to think about this as well if you're trying to determine whether or not to host a virtual event or whether or not to host an in-person event. All of my clients in the Published and Paid membership and those who are in the Published and Paid mastermind, I tell them that they need to have at least one event every single year. Even if it doesn't have to be large scale, it can be a workshop. But getting in person and allowing people to see your brand in action, it allows your attendees to experience your confidence, your leadership, and your expertise up close. And yes, while you can do those things virtually, there's a virtual aspect, but it's still different than being able to actually see it in the room in action. And it can't be replicated. And I want you to think about that. Like when you're trying to choose whether or not you should go to an in-person event, whether or not it's worth the investment to go to an in-person workshop or in-person event, right? You want to look at it. You want to ask yourself these questions. What are you going for? What are you going to learn? Does this event promise that? Does the event have a ton of speakers or does it have one core person that's providing, one or two people that's providing instruction, maybe with some different guests sprinkled throughout? And here's the thing. I personally don't like going to events that have a smorgasbord of speakers. That's why I don't host my events that way. Because I know that all of those people who come on that stage, you have a whole bunch of people that come on the stage. Not everybody can talk. Not everybody can teach. And not everyone can relay information in a way that the information is going to transfer. I know that. That's why I don't go to events that have a ton of speakers. because I feel like I'm going to be talked at and I feel like I'm going to be more motivated than I'm actually going to learn strategic information. So you've got to look at who is hosting it. Are they going to be teaching or speaking? How often? Are there speakers? Who are the speakers? What is their backgrounds? What are they speaking about? Are there too many speakers? Because that is an indicator. Okay? Look up reviews. Ask people that have attended previously. Ask yourself, will I be able to access, will I be able to access the host? Will there be an opportunity for questions? Or will it be all about the people that's on stage? And so one of the things that we do differently at my events, such as the 7-Figure Bestseller Summit that's approaching on Saturday, July 12th, is that we do coaching in the room. We do a session called Booking Business Breakthroughs, where you can submit a form and then I'll bring you up on stage and we'll do hot seat coaching right there on stage. And because I can't get away from my teacher background, while you are working during the implementation sessions at the event, I actually walk around and coach. I walk around and answer questions, and my team does as well. Okay? In-person events are an opportunity for strategic networking. Now, I invest in myself when it comes to events. I'm actually, at the time of this recording, going to an event next week that's in New York that's all about strategic networking. So by the time this episode airs, I probably would have already gone, and I'll probably be coming back with a podcast episode about what I've learned. It's good to get to know people that are in the room, because your next breakthrough can literally be one connection away. It can be one relationship away. This is why it's important to understand the type of events you're going to and the type of people that are going to be in the room. Now, the folks who come to my events tend to be entrepreneurs, experts, leaders, usually in some type of leadership position. We have had people that have come to our rooms that have opened doors for others, that have helped people to get on podcasts, that have invited them on their podcast, that have introduced them to somebody that they need to know to help them to get a contract, right? There's power in the hallway conversations. There's power in networking. There's power in spontaneous collaborations. And so being in the room with like-minded experts and decision makers can lead to partnerships. It can lead to referrals. It can lead to opportunities that you did not plan for. One of my favorite elements of in-person events is implementation and the opportunity to focus. And this is why at the events that my company produces, like the 7-Figure Bestseller Summit, we build in time for you to actually do the work. Have you ever been to an event and the whole entire time they're just giving you information, giving you information, giving you information? And it's like, wow, this is great. Give me a moment. Let me work through this. That's what I like to do when I go to events. I like to learn and I like to have an opportunity to work through it, because I know when I get back home, it's going to be the rat race. It's going to be my children, my husband, the business, all the things pulling on me. So whenever I can get a moment away to not just learn new information, but to also implement and execute while I'm there and leave with things done, listen, it's a game changer. The immersive nature of live events positions you to take action fast. So if you are someone who struggles with procrastination, you struggle with being able to focus, or you just have a lot of things pulling on you, you need the time to be able to implement and take fast, imperfect action without the distractions that you have with a virtual event. And so attending a live event will allow you to walk away with clear action steps, with clear action maps, and real momentum. Now, I know that we're in 2025. You might be feeling virtual fatigue. I attend numerous Zoom calls every single week. So whenever I have the opportunity to meet in person, I take advantage of that. And so this is a year, 2025 is shaping up to be a year where those of us who show up in person have a clear edge in visibility and in growth. And so if today's episode resonated with you, then I want to personally invite you to join me in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is North Atlanta, for the 7-Figure Bestseller Summit. Now, the 7-Figure Bestseller Summit is an exclusive one-day immersive workshop style event for entrepreneurs and experts who are ready to elevate their authority, expand their visibility, and accelerate their income by writing a strategic signature book. So at the summit, we're going to teach 4 core pillars. Pillar number 1 in session 1, creating your signature book blueprint. Pillar number 2, beyond the book and determining your publishing pathway and understanding the editing process and creating a progress plan for you to implement within the next 30 days. Pillar number 3 is marketing mastery and book sales acceleration. And pillar number 4 is book monetization strategies. Listen, if you know that this is your year to totally level up your book and your thought leadership brand, I want you to run, not walk, run to www.sevenfigurebestseller.com. It's the number 7, not spelled out, but it's the number 7figurebestseller.com. Or you can look in the show notes, and I want you to secure your ticket. All right? I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and helping you to take your book, your brand, and your business to the next level. And until the next episode, peace, love, and impact.